Greetings, everyone. This is Julio again, your host for my God in You podcast, YouTube channel, and my all-new Teach the Teacher meditation course. In this episode, I simply wanted to take some time to introduce the course to you, give you these reasons behind it, and the format in which I'm going to be sharing it with you. To begin, it's been said that if prayer is talking to God, then meditation is listening to God. Prayer is supposed to be an educational experience that should always include revelation of God's will for every facet of your life, His instructions and guidance as to how to fulfill it, all done through or experienced through having conversations with God. Many believers desire to hear the voice of God, but unfortunately, most believers are not taught how to position themselves mentally to learn from God as though you were experiencing if you were in a classroom setting. Two of the most profound verses in the Bible concerning Jesus' prayer life that is also experienceable to anyone who trains themselves to experience it, they're found in Isaiah chapter 50, verse 4, and John chapter 6, verse 45. In Isaiah chapter 50, verse 4, concerning a prophetic statement of Jesus' prayer life, it says that God or He would awaken him morning by morning, and that God would awaken his ear to hear as to learn. Now, of course, throughout this course, we're actually going to break that down and show you, and I'm going to show you some deeper perspectives of what that looked like. And then in John chapter 6, verse 45, Jesus quoted this. He said, "It is written in the prophets, and they shall be taught by God. Therefore, everyone who hears and learns from the Father comes to me." Now, for those of you who've been following me for any amount of time, you know how I do it. I like to find key words within the scriptures that when you understand them from definitive root word perspectives, what they do is they unlock greater perspectives, more impactful experiences than what are traditionally offered or taught. And one of those comes with understanding what the word comes actually means. So when you take that word comes and do just a very basic Strong's Concordance research on it, it simply means to go from one place to another. So when you translate that word comes from its Greek perspective into the Hebrew, it becomes the word orak. And how it's defined is simply to follow the same path. Let me repeat that. To follow the same path. So in other words, if you want to hear and learn from the Father within your mind, just like Jesus experienced it as a human being, then we must follow the same path that He did to experience it. And what was His path to hear and learn from the Father within His mind? And where did He teach it? Well, the entry point, which I'm going to be actually is going to be the foundation of this course, is found in Matthew chapter 6, verse 6. And this is the famous Our Father prayer, some know it as the Lord's Prayer. But this is when He was teaching on this activity that we call prayer. And in verse 6, this is Jesus giving instruction. "But you, when you pray, go into your room. And when you have shut the door, pray to your Father who is in the secret place, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly." And of course, again, through the course, we're going to break all this down. I'm going to show you some deeper insights than what I traditionally offer concerning the entire Our Father prayer, which I refer to as the prayer template that Jesus used in order to experience not just the hearing the voice of God, but more importantly, how He positioned Himself to learn from God for every aspect of His life. So that phrase found within the writings of the scriptures concerning Jesus' teaching on prayer, when you look at that phrase to go into your room, it specifies going to a private place where there is no physical distractions that are present. So this would exclude what many today would consider prayer sessions, such as praying in the car, the shower, at church, in a corporate setting, in small groups, or in any other environment that does not consist of only God and you. According to ancient Hebrew thought and practice, the instruction to go into your room or closet, as the King James Version of the Bible states, and to shut the door has a twofold meaning. First, it meant going to a place that is absent of external or physical distractions, but it also means going to a place that is free of internal or mental distractions. This internal secret place that Jesus says that we all have access to is referred to in the Hebraic language as the kader. It is described and even defined as the innermost part of the mind, the hidden chamber or chambers of the mind, which we're going to explore concerning that as part of the advanced stages of this course. The inward part, the secret place, again, as we stated before, and also as the kingdom of God within that Jesus talked about. This inner environment is experiencing also the good ground of the parable of the four soils, and where the renewing of the mind takes place according to Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. And again, throughout the course, we're going to be looking at these stories and these parables and show you the insights concerning them and how they relate to meditation and not just hearing the voice of God, but more importantly, how to position yourself mentally to learn from God as though, again, you were in a classroom setting with just you and Him. So meditation is what positions your body and mind to attentively function as God's educational temple, your soul as God's classroom, and your spirit as His student to hear and learn from Him for every facet of your life. This experience that I'm going to be describing and teaching you about is where we authentically meet and experience the presence of God through conversational thoughts and imagery for the purpose of experiencing revelation from Him, counsel from Him, instruction and encouragement and correction from Him as well. And again, this is for every area of our life, not just concerning spirituality, but everything in terms of relationships, your health, how to maintain your mind, how to do life, in other words. All of that is experienced within the inner parts of our mind. So throughout this course, I'm going to actually share with you in 3 different modules. The first module I'm simply calling Preparing Your Mind to Experience Its Original Purpose. And what is that original purpose? Well, the original purpose, according to the scriptures, that God created the human mind is first and foremost to house His presence and then to experience Him as a teaching spirit for every area of your life through experiencing His thoughts, what some people refer to as hearing the voice of God. In this first module, I'm going to be sharing with you a lot of biblical insight into the fact that morning meditation is the educational and the most important practice for those who truly want to hear as to learn, as Jesus did, through this practice that we call prayer. In this module also, I'm going to be sharing with you the importance of posture in setting up your room or your closet or your space as an educational environment. I'm going to be sharing with you my space here and what I do and how I set my environment. I'm also going to share with you some insights into other meditation practices that I do in my yard, for example, and other places, and how I use those as teaching and training methods to keep my mind conditioned to always be sensitive to discerning the voice of God for every aspect of my life. And through that also, I'm going to be sharing with you some techniques on how to calm or still your mind to manage competing thoughts for the purpose of focusing on one thought process at a time in order to discern the origin of all of your thought processes. And we have many of them, by the way. Once you've trained your mind to discern and have conversations with God, these techniques will no longer be necessary. In other words, once you've taught and trained your mind to experience an education from God within your mind, once you learn how to go into your sacred space and just sit, or whatever position or posture you prefer to pray in, what you're going to see is you're going to drop into getting educated by God. There will no longer be needs for you to train your mind because you've already done so through these techniques. And then I'm also going to be sharing with you different types of meditation exercises also to help enhance deeper thought consciousness through daily activities that you may already be doing. And once again, all geared towards training your mind to experience deeper thought consciousness. And then included in this first module, I'm going to share with you additional tools and resources to help facilitate the experience. And then we'll also, of course, we got to talk about the numerous benefits of meditation, not just hearing and learning from God, but also the medicinal effect that it has on our mind, body, soul, and spirit. And then in module 2, we're going to go deeper. In this module, I'm actually calling it or referring to it as the training your mind to discern and hear the voice or the thoughts of God. And in this module, I'm going to be sharing with you some deep content concerning the fact that thoughts are the language that our mind communicates in. So the voice of God is discernible through intentional and strategic thought study. And these are just a few scriptures that I have on the slide here, but there's a lot more. And I'm going to be breaking the majority of these down and showing you how this is done. And then we're going to, of course, talk about how to discern not just the voice of God, but also how that's included in the inherent three other voices that we have the potential to experience. So first of all, of course, that's we have the inherent potential to experience the voice or the thoughts of God, the voice and thoughts of what the Bible describes as the voice of reasoning, and then the voice or the thought process of evil and self. And when it comes to evil, I'm going to be sharing with you a perspective. And again, I'm going to be giving you biblical content. I'm going to show you definitive root word perspectives that God is an educator of such a thing called evil. So we'll go into all that. So I'm going to share with you knowledge concerning how to discern each one, and then also how to discern other voice or thought processes that are not inherent. In other words, these are the voice or thought processes that we acquire from outside sources. And within this module, I'm simply going to describe to you what does the voice of God sound like. In other words, how do you know that you're hearing from God and not some other source within you? And then in this module, I'm going to be spending some quality time in sharing some knowledge with you concerning the fact that your mind was created to discern good and evil just like God discerns it. In other words, part of our being made or created in the image and likeness of God is the fact that God has given us a mindset potential to be able to discern this good and evil. And by good and evil, I'm referring to what is functional for your life. In other words, what is what people call appropriate, or what is allowable, but also what is not allowable. In other words, what is dysfunctional. And I'm going to be sharing with this perspective, not from a demonic or a devil perspective, but as an inherent potential that we have to experience, again, this inherent voice that instructs us concerning what is good and what is evil, what is functional and what is dysfunctional. And in this module, I'm also going to be sharing with you the 5 aspects of discerning that verify the inherency of this discernment process. And in other words, verifying the fact that part of our being created in the image and likeness of God is the fact that we have the inherent potential to discern good and evil just like God does for every area of our lives. And then in this module, I'm going to be sharing with you some insight concerning iniquity and how it alters the discernment process by assuming the will of God versus hearing and learning it from Him directly, and how to depart from iniquity's effect according to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 19. And then in module 3, which I'm calling the educational experience, now that we've learned to discern the voice of God and discern what the other voices are, or the inherent thought processes, and once we've had that all figured out, I'm going to be sharing some knowledge on how to actually learn from God. In other words, how you can train your mind to actually experience an ongoing education concerning, again, His will and for every aspect of your life. And not just Him revealing it to you, but how you can position yourself to even get instruction as to how to fulfill it. So through that, I'm going to be sharing with you the branches of knowledge that God will teach you about through this Our Father template, which will include revelation and instruction concerning His will for every aspect of your life. So in other words, what His purposes and desires are for you, and how they're experienced through how He described them as give us this day these daily bread experiences. And we're going to be breaking this all down again. And then the hindrances of unforgiveness, sin, and temptation that will hinder you from experiencing His purposes and desires through what the Bible describes as deliverance from evil instructions. And then within this module, I'm going to be sharing some insight into the importance of learning how to have conversations with God within your mind and also verbally. And then the reason for that is to hear God's heart and perspectives concerning everything that you need to learn from Him. And then the art of asking questions, how to use this technique in order to extend and improve conversations with God, and the education that you're going to experience with Him, and how this also is going to improve your relationship with Him. Most believers, and I used to be one of them, I had more of a relationship with a church and other people and my Bible than I did with God. So I'm going to be sharing with you the differences. The relationship with God, that if you really want to experience the authentic relationship with God, it has to come through having conversations with Him. And for those of you who know the analogy, it's impossible to be married to someone and not communicate with them. Imagine if you're married and all your spouse was to give you a word and never gave you a conversation. Well, it's the same thing with God. If you want to know what's truly in the heart of your relationship with your spouse or another loved one, well, if you hear their heart concerning it, and this is how you know where they're at. This is how you build a relationship with them. And this is the same process with God. If we truly want to have a genuine and authentic and an educational experience with Him, then we need to learn how to have conversations with Him. And within this module, I'm also going to be sharing some deep insight into how we can heal from past and current suffering and trauma, and how to repurpose these experiences as ministry towards others who are currently suffering from similar experience, and then how to actually experience the authentic peace of God that surpasses all understanding for every aspect of your life. And then within this module, I'm also going to be sharing some deep content regarding the book that God authored for your life and how it eventually becomes the curriculum of learning between you and Him. And then I'm going to be sharing with you some insight into the juicy one that a lot of people like to know about, is that how do you actually get your prayers answered from God? Well, I'm going to be sharing with you how you can actually pray God's known will and how you can get all of your prayers answered once you hear and learn what His will is for your life. And within this module, I'm going to be sharing some deep content with you concerning how to experience vision for your future through acquiring mental imagery and knowledge from God. So, concerning the format, I'm going to be teaching this primarily here in my closet, because this is, at first I was going to do green screen and a nice background and all this other stuff. And God simply just impressed me, just do it where you normally experience it. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing. And it's all going to be based on the Our Father who is in heaven, or the Lord's Prayer template, which is actually the prayer life model of Jesus. So once I break it all down, you're going to see where I'm coming from. In other words, this was the template that He used to go within what the Bible refers to also as the kingdom of God within His mind, in order to hear and learn from God. And I'm going to do this entire series by teaching more insightful biblical content concerning the practice and experience than what is traditionally offered in church or any other spiritual environment, where God, of course, is the focus and where the scriptures are used as a teaching resource. So the main goal of Teach the Teacher is to experience the original purpose that God created the human mind, which is, again, to house His presence and to experience His mind within it as a teaching spirit. In other words, to hear as to learn, just like Jesus experienced as a human being by experiencing revelation, information, encouragement, and educational conversations that He had with God for every facet of His life. Sometimes I'm going to be practicing with you. Sometimes I'm going to be offering suggestions and other resources to enhance the experience. Most of the lessons are going to be about 20 minutes or less. All of the lessons are going to be linked to my website. So if you go to my website, julioalvaradojr.com, you're going to see that I added a new button on top, and it's called Teach the Teacher. So once you click on that, all of the episodes related to this series, related to this course, which is going to be free, by the way, are going to be available to you as I post them. I'm always going to update that link. And for those of you who are subscribed to my website, I'm going to send out an email notification of all the new uploads. Or if you're already subscribed to my YouTube or podcast channels, there also, if you have the notifications activated, you'll be notified there as well every time I upload an episode. Or you can also access these through my Facebook group called How to Hear God Through Meditation. And once you actually, if you're searching for it online, make sure that you put my name, my full name, Julio Alvarado Jr., and you'll find that. All you have to do is like that. And if for some reason you can't or it won't allow you, just send me a message and I'll make sure that I send you an invite if you want to access these lessons through that modality. So I'm excited to be able to share this with you, even though I have a lot of content related to meditation already on my YouTube channel and my podcast channel. This is going to be more strategic. We're going to go deeper. We're going to be more systematic. I'm going to be sharing you some things that I've never shared with you before, some things that I've learned recently about the experience and the process. So all of that is going to be included in this for free again. So you can go ahead and learn this at your own pace. So for those of you who are in Module 1 and had that struggle with, how to calm your mind, just stay there for a while. Don't go to Module 2. Definitely don't go to Module 3 because it'll be too much information for you. So this course is going to be designed for you to do it or to learn and to practice it at your own pace. So again, I'm excited to be able to share this with you. And let me just quickly tell you the reason why I'm calling it Teach the Teacher. Every human being is a teacher. We're always teaching ourselves to do something. The greatest thing that you can teach yourself to experience is to teach yourself how to use your mind according to the original purpose for which God created it. And I've mentioned what those are, and that is, again, to house His presence and also to experience Him as a teaching spirit for every facet of your life. Once you taught yourself to discern and learn from God, you now go into another level of teaching. Now you're experiencing the teacher within your mind. Once you learn how to do that, if this is a sign to your life, then you can teach others to experience the same. Throughout this whole series, I'm going to be sharing with you some different things regarding the Great Commission and how Jesus taught the apostles and all these different things that all point to one experience. Anybody that is teaching on authentic, true spirituality concerning how to experience God like Jesus experienced Him will eventually see that. So again, I just wanted in this episode to simply introduce the course, give you the reasons behind it, and of course the main one is to hear and learn just like Jesus experienced as a human being, and also to share with you the format. So until the next episode, as always, peace, stay encouraged, and stay blessed.